who is the Assistant Secretary General of the Commonwealth and also is the Conference Secretary for the Commonwealth Law Ministers meeting. To his left, we have the Permanent Secretary of Ministry of Constitutional and Legal Affairs of the United Republic of Tanzania, Mary Makondo. To her immediate left, we have the Commonwealth Secretary General, the Right Honourable Patricia Scotland KC. To her left, we have Honourable Emmanuel Yugira Shibuja. He is the Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Rwanda. We're delighted that he's representing the government of United Republic of Tanzania because Honorable Ambassador Dr. Pindi Hazarachana wasn't able to join us today due to an urgent government engagement. And to his left, we have the Permanent Secretary of Ministry of Constitutional and Legal Affairs of Zanzibar, Mansoura Qasim. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll first invite Honourable Minister Emmanuel to read the outcome statement of the 2024 Commonwealth Law Ministers meeting to the journalist, following which I'll invite the Secretary General to say a few words, and after that we'll open the floors for question and answers. I now hand over to Honourable Minister Emmanuel to read the outcome statement to the journalist. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So this is the outcome statement. Commonwealth Law Ministers, Attorneys General, and senior officials from 32 member countries met in Zanzibar, United Republic of Tanzania, from the 4th to the 8th of March 2024. The theme of the meeting was Technology and Innovation, how digitalization paves the way for people-centered access to justice. The Secretary General of the Commonwealth noted that closing the justice gap is central to realizing every aspect of the values and aspirations expressed in the Commonwealth Charter, and that technology is a vital weapon in the Commonwealth legal arsenal. The Secretary General urged member countries to harness, understand, and master the benefits of technology and innovation in breaking down barriers of cost and complexity and delivering legal systems which can meet the justice needs for all. The Secretary General expressed gratitude to the United Republic of Tanzania for hosting the 2024 Commonwealth Law Ministers meeting in the beautiful island of Zanzibar, and introduced the chairperson of the meeting, the Honorable Ambassador Dr. Pindi Chana, Minister of Constitutional and Legal Affairs of the United Republic of Tanzania. The following were the theme papers. Law Ministers received and discussed the theme paper from the United Republic of Tanzania. The paper described how the use of technology and innovation had improved efficiency, reduced costs, and simplified legal processes in the Tanzanian judicial system. The law ministers commended the initiative instituted by the government of the United Republic of Tanzania to improve access to justice through technology. Law ministers discussed their own efforts to leverage technology of the challenges associated with the facilitation of access to justice. Looking forward, member countries recognize the importance of harnessing the full potential of new technologies in delivering justice solutions. The following are the legal work of the Commonwealth Secretariat and CHOGM mandates. The meeting received an overview of the legal work of the Secretariat undertaken since the Commonwealth Law Ministers meeting in Balaclava, Mauritius in November 2022. This included activities undertaken to implement CHOGM mandates in the Commonwealth Equal Access to Justice Declaration and Plan, the Commonwealth Cyber Declaration, as well as the Commonwealth Latimer House Principles on the 3 branches of the government. Law ministers noted current progress in ongoing projects undertaken by the Commonwealth Secretariat to actualize the Commonwealth Equal Access to Justice Plan of Action. Law ministers considered the programs proposed by the Secretariat to implement the Access to Justice Declaration and Plan of Action, including Commonwealth best practice guides on access to justice, the Commonwealth Chief Justices Forum, and the Commonwealth People-Centered Justice Work Group. Law ministers requested the Secretariat to report progress at the next Law Ministers meeting. Then there's the Law Ministers Action Group. The Law Ministers received the report of the inaugural meeting of the Law Ministers Action Group held in November 2023. The meeting recalled the objectives of the Law Ministers Action Group, which include promoting member countries' realization of the SDG 16 targets and implementing decisions, declaration, and action plans adopted by the ministers and Commonwealth heads of governments. As agreed by the law ministers in Mauritius in 2022, the Law Ministers Action Group submitted a report of its activities. Law ministers welcomed the Law Ministers Action Group report and were informed of the Secretary General's proposals for the development of first, an AI-powered drafting toolkit for legislative drafters in the Commonwealth. Second, a legal information repository for all Commonwealth countries. Third, a project aimed at assisting member countries in their efforts to digitize their courts. And last but not least, the Commonwealth Attorney General's Pro Bono Committee, which will collectively provide advice on commencing and supporting nascent pro bono activities in the Commonwealth. Law ministers requested the Secretariat to report progress at their next meeting. The next was on the Commonwealth draft model on virtual assets. At the 2022 Commonwealth Law Ministers meeting in Mauritius, law ministers were presented with a paper on the Commonwealth legal and regulatory framework on the digital economy. Law ministers agreed that the Commonwealth Secretariat should commence work to scope a potential framework model on law digital assets, which aligned with the Commonwealth values. Law ministers received from the Commonwealth Secretariat a model law on virtual assets, which complies with the Financial Action Task Force FATF Recommendation 15, which requires virtual asset service providers to be regulated for anti-money laundering and countering the financing of terrorism, and licensed or registered and subject to effective systems for monitoring or supervision. Ministers thanked the Secretary General and requested the Secretariat to continue monitoring emerging trends. Member states may utilize the model law at their discretion, and the Secretariat is requested to review the model law as appropriate. There was also a discussion on mediation and case management. In this regard, the law ministers received 2 knowledge products developed by the Secretariat on mediation and case management. Law ministers noted the need for alternative dispute resolutions frameworks and welcomed the development of the mediation guide. Law ministers were encouraged to sign and ratify the Singapore Convention on Mediation. Singapore offered support in assisting those who had not ratified the convention. Law ministers also commended the work of the Secretariat in developing best practice standards and technology-driven solutions on case management. Another issue that was discussed was easing mission travel for Commonwealth staff across. The law ministers were updated on the Secretariat's progress on its work to ease the pressure and costs of staff traveling on official business throughout the Commonwealth. Law ministers acknowledged their 2022 directive that the Secretariat raise the issue before the appropriate fora. The Secretariat highlighted a number of precursory matters which require the attention of law ministers. These include the setting up of a working group to conduct an analysis of existing legislation in member countries which govern the diplomatic immunities and privileges of the Commonwealth Secretariat as an institution and of its staff in member countries, and the approach used for other regional as well as international organizations. Law ministers endorsed the establishment of a working group to collate legislation on diplomatic immunities and privileges offered to the Commonwealth Secretariat as an institution and its staff on mission in member countries. Law ministers noted the need to include and keep informed other relevant ministries in this process. There was also a discussion on mapping a people-centered justice approach to access to justice. And in this regard, this was captured. Building on the previous recognition that there is an urgent need to develop more evidence-based, data-driven justice solutions, law ministers participated in a working session on mapping a people-centered justice approach to access to justice. Law ministers were guided through a discussion which highlighted the approach through a practical example of a member country's development of a 10-year strategy on people-centered access to justice. Law ministers were encouraged to explore people-centered innovative pathways to close the justice gap, which in some jurisdictions can extend to 55% of the population. People-centered solutions should be contextual, data-driven, and demonstrate potential for expansion on replication. Then there was a discussion also on the protection of vulnerable groups. In keeping with the Secretariat's mandate to protect vulnerable groups in the Commonwealth, law ministers received a paper on online violence against women and girls. This paper presented a summary of findings and recommendations contained in 5 regional reports addressing the role of bystanders in the context of online violence. The report noted that high incidence of cyber violence continued to be reported and that the root causes are gender-based with a disproportionate impact on females. Law ministers recognized that online violence has escalated and noted the urgent need for members to take steps to prioritize efforts to address this serious problem impacting women and girls and other vulnerable groups across the Commonwealth, including taking legislative steps to address online violence against women and girls. Law ministers recommended the development of a Commonwealth Action Plan to address cyber violence against women and girls. Law ministers also received a meeting paper on ensuring access to justice for persons with disabilities in the Commonwealth. Law ministers were invited to strengthen national laws to ensure the protection of persons with disabilities. They were encouraged to request technical assistance for the development and implementation of the inclusive policies and regulations in keeping with the 2022 CHOGM mandate, which urged member countries to implement the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability and promote alignment of any related policies. This you can see it in the CHOGM communique in 2022, paragraph 23. The law ministers also received a project proposal on equality in law for women and girls. This project seeks to address the continued existence of discrimination in national laws and frameworks. Law ministers noted the project proposal on equality in law for women and girls and invited the Secretariat to report progress at a later stage. There was also a discussion on facilitating collaboration and engagement across the Commonwealth, electronic resources for law ministers. Law ministers received 4 electronic resources developed by the Secretariat to facilitate knowledge and information sharing among member countries, including first, the Commonwealth Database on International Cooperation in Criminal Matters; second, the Commonwealth Cyber Repository; third, the Commonwealth e-courses on cyber; and finally, the Commonwealth Small Claims Court app. Law ministers recognized the value of practical tech-based solutions developed by the Secretariat as important tools to illustrate the use of technology to improve access to legal information. Law ministers noted the resources will assist officials to manage a range of legal problems efficiently and swiftly. Law ministers undertook to encourage the use of electronic resources. Another issue discussed was energy and extractives, which involved climate change and just transition. The law ministers received several papers in the field of energy and extractives, which highlighted work of the Commonwealth Natural Resources Program to assist member countries to responsibly manage natural resources and the energy transition for the present and the future generations. The papers included first, the Commonwealth Carbon Tax Model Law; second, Field Development Plans, which is a handbook for government officials; and then third, decommissioning, which will guide